What's up everybody, Serenity here, and today I'm bringing you my Fuze guide. So let's get into it. As per usual, I'm going to start with the loadout. So you have a lot of primaries for Fuze. You have the ballistic shield, you have the 6P41 light machine gun, and then you have the AK-12. I use the AK-12 because it's an amazing weapon. I mean, it shoots really quickly, it has good damage, the recoil is really good, and it honestly has enough bullets. I wouldn't go for the light machine gun. The only good thing about it is its high capacity, but it's not even worth it, and it's also going to slow you down. And you know, Fuze is already very slow, you don't want to slow yourself any more than that. As for the shield, I wouldn't recommend using it simply because there are better shields out there, and I'm specifically thinking about Blitz right now because Multang does a completely different job. So yeah, that's why I use the AK-12. The attachments that I like to run on it are the reflex sight, the flash hider, and the grip. I don't use a laser sight, but you could make an argument for it because Fuze is everything but stealthy, but honestly I still don't like it because I don't want them to know where I'm looking at. That is, even if they most likely know where I am. In the sidearm category, you have the GSH-18 and the PMM. Now, as per usual, one has more capacity and the other has more damage, and as per usual I prefer the one with more capacity. That said, I would like to add that the PMM is a great pistol, and if you like it, go ahead and use it. In the gadget category, you have the stun grenades and the breaching charges, and honestly both gadget makes a lot of sense to use with Fuze, so it really depends on what your team is carrying, but I'll talk about this more in the gameplay section of the video. And to finish out the loadout, you have high armor and low speed, making you a very good candidate for the front line. Fuze's special ability is the cluster charge. It's a gadget that you attach to any partially destructible wall or floor. When activated, it sends 5 small explosives on the other side of the wall. It's important to note that it sends them in a random pattern. In my opinion, a lot of people are using the cluster charges wrong. What they do is they attach the cluster charge and then they detonate it right away, giving the enemies a lot of time to move around and get to a safer location in the room. What I think they should be doing is use the cluster charge to make the people move around. While they're moving around, they are very vulnerable to you. So, you know, peek in, breach in, do whatever you have to do, but get line of sight on them because it's at this precise moment that they are the weakest, and so you should exploit this by engaging right then and there. If you use the cluster charge before breaching in, they're just gonna run away and then go back to their highly organized position, and you really don't want to engage that because you don't have to. Also, using the cluster charges that way will get you a lot more kills with the cluster charges itself, because some of the time the enemies will return fire on you instead of running away from the cluster charges. When you see that, just pull back because it's not worth trading with them if they're probably gonna die anyway. Oh, and here's a quick tip: place a cluster charge as high as you can on the window because it's gonna make a hole, and if you want to place another cluster charge, you can always place it below and you're gonna stay hidden. If you place the second cluster charge higher than the first one, they're gonna see you through the hole of the first one. I know it seems like a small nuance, but if you apply it, it's gonna save your life a lot more than you would think. The cluster charges are really good at disabling Jaeger's ADS because of its low quality, high quantity nature. You know, the cluster charge sends 5 small explosives, and each ADS can take out 2. So with one cluster charge, you can disable 2 ADS. That means that someone with grenades will be able to use them wherever they want now. So in a way, the cluster charges can be used as a support tool. There's also a possibility that you can take out all 3 ADS with one cluster charge, because if they're too close to each other, they're gonna shoot the same explosive, wasting their charges. Here's a custom game that I made with my friend, and as you can see, with 2 explosives, I wasted 6 ADS charges. So if you ever see a room full of ADSs, use your cluster charge, because think about it. If there's a lot of ADS in the room, that means that they want to protect something, and if you destroy the ADS, your team can now throw stun grenades, EMP grenades, and frag grenades. So in the end, it's a very efficient trade because stun grenades and frag grenades are much better than the small explosives you have. Alright, so let's talk about Fuze. He is highly armored but very slow, so of course you won't be doing much flanking with him. The best way to use such an operator is to dominate the front line and trying to find tunnel vision types of firefights, because in those your armor will be very useful and your lack of speed won't matter that much. So what I mean by tunnel vision firefights is, you know, the most obvious spot that your team is going to push first. After you get to that location, you know, you do your thing. You use cluster charges, you use your drone, you pre-fire the common spots, you just generally try to make as much quote-unquote noise as possible. That's gonna allow your team to flank and execute the plan. You're basically acting as an anchor, holding important angles, allowing your team to have more freedom of movement on the map. So basically, Fuze's role is to keep the enemies occupied and predictable. If you see that you're drawing a lot of guns to your spot and you're just taking a lot of shots every time you peek, you can pull back for a moment. Your job is done. The enemies are focused on you. You don't have to peek all the time to keep that attention on you, but as soon as the enemies stop focusing on you, now is the time to peek again. So as you can see, this is a balance, and it's pretty hard to know what's going on in that room without looking, and it all comes down to game sense, which will come with experience, which is why if you're a new Fuze player, I would recommend using a lot more drones, and the more you improve, the less important the drones will be, because at one point you'll be able to trust your instinct to know what's going on inside that room. Fuze is also a great screening operator, meaning that he defends the diffuser very well, because in those situations the enemy has to push into you, and if they do, the flaw of Fuze, basically his mobility, doesn't matter at all. And so that's why as soon as the diffuser is planted, you should think of defending it by going in between it and the enemy team, because you're most likely gonna kill every defender trying to attack you, or at least slow them down by a lot. The fun thing about Fuze is that he could possibly do all of that with a bad gun, but that's just not the case. He has an amazing gun. He can easily do all of that and do a lot of killing. Honestly, I didn't really like the AK-12 at first, but now that I got used to it, I don't know why, but I'm racking headshots every single game. I don't know if it's the recoil pattern or the reflex sight, but I'm doing better with this gun than any other gun in the game. It's probably a combination of the two. You know, an easy to memorize recoil with a great and simple sight is just gonna be great for shooting heads. Also, the reflex sight will save your life a lot of time because the sides are so thin that you see absolutely everything around you. And since you're gonna be right up in their face, you will get flanked a lot. And so with the reflex sight, you'll be able to see those flankers that you wouldn't normally see with, let's say, the ACOG or the red dot. In my opinion, the reason why Fuze does so well is that everything seems to line up with his aggressive playstyle. You know, the high armor, the hard-hitting gun, the very simple sight, and of course the cluster charges. They all have really good synergy and nothing seems out of place. And yeah, I really think Ubisoft did a great job designing him. Alright guys, I covered everything I wanted to talk about. So in conclusion, don't use the cluster charges hoping that you'll get kills with them. Create line of sight and then use the cluster charges to make a big mess in the enemy's defense. Once that's done, try to get as much attention as possible on you by holding that angle you just created. That being said, you don't have to die doing this. If you see that things are getting too hot, you don't have to peek. Your job is done. While this is happening, make sure to tell your team to speed up their pace and execute the plan. And as soon as that diffuser is down, your job is to defend it. Get between it and the enemy team, and trust me, you're gonna do wonders holding up that angle. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you for the recent support. I just can't believe what's going on with the YouTube channel. I mean, I'm getting so many new subscribers every single day, and I wanted to say that I feel really thankful for it. Also, I'm thinking of making a Q&A or AMA type of thing for a 10,000 subscriber special. I wanted to do that because my YouTube channel is different from the other gaming channels. I mean, it's very informative, and I didn't really get to create a good relationship with you guys. I mean, I don't really know you, and you don't really know me. And so yeah, that's why I thought it would be a good idea. So if you have any questions, just ask me and I'll probably answer it in the video. So again guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Having another short to medium range weapon would be very redundant and it wouldn't make a lot of sense. You know, what Smoke really needs is a reliable long range weapon as a secondary, and that's exactly what the SMG can become, with the right attachments of course. Now if you give it a try, it'll take some time for you to adapt because it's really hard to only go for headshots, but I know for a fact you'll quickly understand its potential. The two weapons that Twitch carries are badly affected by this bug. The only way to go around this bug is as soon as you see an enemy falling down, you need to stop shooting and you need to wait until the animation is fully finished.